Good morning, all of you student. So welcome to lecture series on the Msc Physics second year for the subject of the energy study, and we have to continue the first chapter. That chapter is the energy resources and energy scenario. So today we want to see the points of the principles of the energy conservation. So starting before this point, we want to summarize the last lecture. So in last lecture we have to see here what is mean by the energy management, what is mean by the energy strategy, and what is the main aspect of the energy conservation. And the main aspect of the energy conservation which is deals with the help of to what amount of energy which is extract, or what amount of energy which have demand of the energy, and what amount of energy supply, and depends on this energy demand of supply, three main environment aspect. First aspect which is the economical aspect, and that economical aspect consider as the point of the reduce the cost of the production as well as the new job opportunity. And after that we have to see the main aspect of the environmental aspect of the energy conservation, and that environmental aspect of the energy conservation which leads to the increase the productivity or increase the efficiency of the energy, and also helps to reduce the pollution of the environment. And after that we have to see here the next one main aspect which is the depletion of the non-renewable energy sources. That means by we have to develop the new technology that energy sources, that renewable energy sources is used as the alternative energy sources as compared to the non-renewable energy sources due to the use of the future generation. Okay, and now this lecture we want to see the main principles of the energy conservation. Okay, so in that point, so there are various types of the principle of the energy conservation that depends upon the cost, depends on the efficiency of the energy, and depends of the many various phenomena. So that in those principle we have to say that here the first point, that first general principle of the energy conservation, we have to see here the general principle of the energy conservation. And in this general energy conservation, the first point is the recycling of the waste. So that different type of principles, or in that the first principles is the recycling of waste. Okay, so recycling of the waste. So what is mean by the recycling of the waste, or why it is necessary? Because we have to say that if the we have to energy harvesting, or we have to process on the primary energy sources or primary resources, and process on this energy this primary resources, we have to extract the final product. And for this process the finished final product has the intrinsic value of depends on the original energy input during the production process. And this, for example, consider as what is meaning by the energy input during the production process, that is considered as uh, last lecture seen by the news, very good example for the newspaper generation, or so that the newspaper material have more gain energy, the energy in the raw material in goes with the making of the paper. Okay, or you know that if that making of this paper, we have to use the various part of the plants, and due to the cause of the deforestation. But one method is here, if we generate paper and uses of this paper, so that paper, waste paper, which is also used again recycling in the to making a paper. And that main advantages is one of the save the trees or forest area, save the energy or increasing the efficiency, and one of also the reducing the waste and reclaiming the useful waste material by recycling can save the invisible energy. So these are the first principle, which is the reducing of the waste. Once again I repeat that, so that waste of energy or reducing of the waste, which is helpful to increase the efficiency and reduce the cost of the energy or reduce the cost of the various byproduct, which is also helpful. So we have to need to use or recycle the waste product to harness the energy as well as the other byproduct. Okay, this is first principle of the energy conservation. Now next principle is we have to need, or for example starting for this we have to see in the waste recycling of the waste. There are three benefits. Which benefits? That is, it saves and recovers the part of energy that has been the spent on the process, that has been the spent of the process of the fresh material. This one of the benefit. Second benefit, which is considered as the extraction of the same amount of new material, it is also displaced and it is also solve the problem of the waste disposal. So these are the benefit. Okay, and next main principle we have to see here, that is the modernization of the technology. Modernization of technology. So in this point we have to cover uh, see that, so that if we use the modern technology, so that have many advantages. So that advantages like as the use the low amount of energy, high efficiency of this technology, or very crucial level we have to use handle very easily, and we have to harnessing the much amount of the energy. Or we have see the that the comparison of the developing country and new developed country or developing country. So for example, that developed country which is has been reduced the energy consumption, which is significantly compared to the developing country. If we want see for example the adapting of the energy of the modern technology, that is considered as, for example, Indian steel industry. That Indian steel industry which is extract the 1 ton of the energy, the 1 ton of the steel which is extract from, we have to need the energy which is 9.50 million kg per ton. 9.50 million kg per ton. That huge amount of energy which want to extract the steel industry. But as compared to developing country as like Italy or for example Japan, which have extract 1 ton of steel, extract one of steel, only this demand of the energy is the 4 million kilocalorie per ton. 4 million kilocalorie per ton. So that as compared to 9.50 million per ton or 4.0 million kilocalorie per ton, so that is the huge amount of energy which is demand for the developing country. So this is also that is indicate that the we have to need well developed or modernized technology have to use. Again consider as the next which is the case of the cement industry, that energy requirement of the India like developing country has used the 2 million kilocalorie per ton. That amount of energy is used, and as compared to we have to see in the developed country like as the USA and other modern country that have used only 0.95 million kilocalorie per tons, that amount of energy which is used. So that indicate that developed country use the modern technology and how to consume the energy or reduce the cost of the product as compared to developing country. So that developing country we have to need to develop or modernize to the equipments or the technology of the energy extraction or which is used in the industrial level. So this is the very important principle of the energy conservation. Next principle of the energy conservation, which is the waste heat utilization. So that is third number is waste heat utilization. So this is also uh, one of the principle of the energy conservation. For example, because how the various industrial level that process have required the much amount of the heat energy, and that heat is different grades or waste of heat from one process can serve need of the other processes, and that require the heat of the lower grade. Okay, so that is, for example, we have to go in the for many type of the industry, uh, so that have need to melt many material or many things. We have to need to huge amount of the temperature. Okay, and that temperature use, so suppose for example, in example take the glass industry, that glass industry take to melted the various type of the glass, we have to need 1500 degrees Celsius temperature require. But in that process of the furnishing to melting the glass, near about to 400 to 500 degrees Celsius heat which is generate, that is waste heat of generation. So that heat which is used as the other purposes in the form of the fuel gases or the furnace. So this one of the uses of the wastage of heat which is utilized for the other processes of the industrial purposization or purposes. Next one is, for example, the fuel. That fuel may be released the medium pressure steam and fed to the that used to the back pressurized turbine, which is help as the generate the electricity from this heat. And for example, this exhaust from the back pressure turbine, that out of this 400 to 500 degrees Celsius, so again 120 degrees Celsius near about, that much amount of heat temperature of the heat which is wastage, and that waste heat which is used also in the further be for the crop drying or the paper drying, that purposes that using also this heat. And next one is that condensed water vapor, that at nearly about the 60 degrees Celsius, that may be used for the heating of the space, fish farming or the greenhouse technology. That amount of heat also used there the other purposes. So that is only meaning that waste heat utilization, that is considered as the if the much amount of heat is generated for the industrialization for one purposes, and that remaining heat, waste heat, which is used also in the other purposes of the industrialization as well as the agricultural as well as the other purposes, we have to use. Okay, so that one of the principle. Next principle is the proper housekeeping. This is one also the main principle of the energy conservation, that is the proper housekeeping. This is one also method or one also principle that have conserve the energy. So that is the proper housekeeping, and that is the can also save the lots of energy with the help of the saving of the gases or saving of the electricity. Next main principle which is considered as the judicial use of the proper type of the energy. So that is judicial use of the proper type of energy. Proper type of energy. So that is also one of the main principle, and that consider the financial value of the energy that varies enormously with its grading, and the state of the energy forms are mentioned here. The decreasing order such as like the electrical energy, that is the grade of the energy. We have to use of the mechanical energy and thermal energy. So that types of energy which has used the proper types of the energy or proper uses of this energy, that should never use the higher grade energy that require. For example, consider as the electrical energy which is preferably not be used for the heating purpose instead of thermal energy, and which may be obtained directly by the burning of the fuel of the solar thermal may be used. So that is one also. So that meaning say that judicial use of the proper type of energy. So that types of the energy which is that electrical energy, mechanical energy, thermal energy. If we need to increase the temperature of water, or we have to need the heat of the water, so as the uses of the electrical equipment like heater or other things, so that alternative source of this use of the solar energy, so that type of the energy we have to use to save the electrical energy. And other purposes for using the electrical energy, that alternative source of using the mechanical energy for the purposes of the other we have to need for any processes. So that meaning say that only that uses of the proper use of the energy that have need for that things. So this is one also method, or one also principle of the energy conservation. Next one is the judicial use of the proper type of the fuel. Sixth one, which is given as the judicial use of proper type of fuel. Proper type of the fuel. So that consider as the a cheaper primary source which has considered as the preferred whenever the possible pace of, for example, consider as we have to use as the fossil fuel like coal or petroleum, so which are used as the energy, okay, for other purposes. So we have to need some modern technology we have to use. For example, uses of the coal as alternative sources of the use of the gasoline or gasified coal, or pulverized other forms of, and the biofuel etc., that may be used for the alternative source of the fossil fuel. So that is the type of the uses of the proper type of the fuel. That is meaning say that only the alternative source which are used for the coal and petroleum, we have to need to use the biofuel as well as gasified coal or pulverizer etc., that also uses for alternative source. Next one, which is principle or main, this is very main principle of the energy conservation, that is the cogeneration. So first of all, what is mean by the cogeneration? What is mean by the cogeneration? So simply cogeneration is which also know that, so that extraction of electrical energy or generation of the electrical energy and useful it in the single installation. Okay, so that is meaning say that only the electrical energy which is generate from the uses using of the heat which is the single installation, and that should be use of the physical feasible or economically viable, or instead of the separate generation of the electricity and heat. So that many industries that cogeneration may be result in 13% lower fuel consumption as compared to that the separate generation of the electricity and process of the heat. So that is one also very helpful process for the principle of the energy generation, or energy consume or reduce the energy cost. So that is cogeneration. What is mean by cogeneration? That is the, that is electricity generate with the help of the heat, with the help of the heat. For example, for heat of the water, that is we have to using that convert into steam, and that steam use as the rotate the generator, rotate the turbines, and that turbines rotate the generator, we have achieved the electricity. And that after the remaining heat water that use also in the other purposes for the home appliances as well as the industrial appliances. So that is one also main important principle of the energy conservation. Next one is the adopting daylight saving time. It one is the principle of the energy conservation is the adopting daylight saving time. Adopting daylight saving time, and that consider as we have to know that in summer days that sun is the very sunshine, or in other compared to rainy season or the winter season. So that daylight saving time may be adopt that save a very significant amount of energy during the certain season in a year. For example, in summer, what happens that sunrise in as compared to other season early for the 1 hour or 2 hour. So that we have to need to develop technology that extract the solar energy, we have to need extract the much amount of the solar energy as compared to other season. So that when sun rises early, the clock that may be set 1 hour ahead of the cold local standard time. Okay, that sun which is arise from the 1 hour earlier than the local time, and that have to use this increase the number of the useful hours to the daylight and provide the extra sunlight at the evening. So that is mean by we have to need the increase the ratio or proportion of the solar energy. So that is one also the main principle of the energy conservation. So next one which is also used in the proper operation and the maintenance. Proper operation and maintenance. Proper operation and proper operation and maintenance. So that is considered as the harvesting the energy as well as use the other purposes of the energy. That equipment also need to very developed technology, or if we have to use the equipment which are used for many days, that equipment have the drawback or problem like the leakage, or must be carefully plug or proper lubrication should be maintained in the moving parts, and that proper thermal insulation should be utilized in the thermal system. So that type that need to maintenance of the this equipment which has need, so that how we have to good operation of this technology. So we have to good operation of this technology, we have to need to have take the proper maintenance of this technology. So this is one also, this is also the very good or very cheap principle of the energy conservation. So these are the or one of also consider as taking the principle of the energy generation, which is training of the manpower. Training of the training of the manpower. So this is also one of the important things that we have to saving the energy conservation. So that is considered as manpower should be trained or adapt habit in the efficient use of the energy. If have this skill type of the worker which have or very good or train manpower which are used to harnessing the energy, or to have to use the process of the other methods, we have to use the taken out the final product, which is very efficient when we have to use the skill manpower or train manpower. So these are the main principles of the energy conservation, which is considered as the recycling of waste, modernization of technology, waste heat utilization, proper housekeeping, judicial use of the proper type of the energy. Again also see that the judicial use of the proper type of the fuel, cogeneration system, adapting daylight saving time, proper operation and the maintenance of the equipment, and also training of the manpower. So this is the principle of the energy generation. Expect Except for this point, only one point remaining for this chapter or this module, which is cogeneration. This is very important type. So we have to see in this lecture small idea about the cogeneration. What is mean by cogeneration? That is cogeneration which is mean by the generate the electricity with the help of with the utilize of the heat, with the help of the heat, that is mean in the form of the single installation. This is known as the cogeneration system, and that cogeneration system which is consider at the types of cogeneration principle, that is topping cycle or bottoming cycle, that is known as the which how much amount of heat which is generated for the purposes of the industrial level as well as the other purposes, and saving of this lower grade heat which are used for the other purposes. So that depends of this topping cycle or bottoming cycle or lower cycle. So that we have to see in the next lecture, and which is also see the next lecture, that is the types of the cogeneration system. So thanking of you only one, so that cogeneration point is remaining for this chapter, so will be complete in the next lecture.